So I have pressed all my pieces. I have my torso with making sure you have your open tab. I have 2 legs. I have 2 arms. Oh, it's hard to show in this little frame of my phone here, but here's 2 arms. And I have my little ears. You'll notice on my ears that when I pressed them, I carefully just poked the raw edge inwards and then pressed. That'll make it a lot easier to attach to our head when it is time. So for this part now of jointing the body, we can put our little ears aside. We don't need these guys. What we do need is our 20mm joints. We need 4 of them, 1 for each limb. And we need a thread and an embroidery needle, and of course our parts. So what we're going to do first is you're going to take your 2 arms and put them so that you know that the thumbs are up and you'll have a right and a left. It would be horrible if you jointed them both the same direction. So what we're going to do is mark on the inside of your arm. So I'll put one down here. I'm hoping you can see from this angle. I'll try and swap it up. Dump out my joints. Let me try and lower this angle a little bit for you guys. There we go. So I have my joint and I'm going to put it on the inside of the arm. I'll take a sharpened pencil and I'm going to lift up my joint a little bit just to see where the center is, and I'll mark it. So that'll be about the center of my joint. It's a little bit off because it's hard to see under the joint, but that'll be where I am going to take my awl and going inside, not through, inside. You'll come out where your mark is. Or in my case, it was slightly off. That's okay. I'll come out once, twice. You want to come out a couple of times in this point so that you can easily get your chopsticks through. What you've done is just basically poked a hole and broke the stitches at the hole. So you'll now take your chopstick and go through where you poked. Sometimes you'll have to carefully, I want to make sure you can see this, but pick and break a couple of the stitches in the fleece. The fleece has a bigger weave through it, and so it doesn't break through as easily. So once I broke one little stitch there, I get my whole chopstick through. And I'm going to really push that chopstick through, back and forth. The chopstick's about the same width as your joint, which is what makes it super easy. So I've stretched a hole here, and I will take my joint and push it through. Making sure it fits in there nicely. So what I'll do next is I'll take my thread and I'll make sure it's doubled, and I've knotted the end. Snip off a little bit of excess there. So I'm going to do a running stitch around the joint. So I will anchor my thread by going through and then through again. Okay, so I've anchored my thread and I'm just going to go a little running stitch straight around. What you're doing is you don't want, I'll back up a bit and go through again. You don't want the fabric around the joint to loosen off. There have been cases with dolls that people haven't secured the joints, especially dolls that aren't lined, but this one is lined. But just to be sure, we want to make sure that we are going just around, just to make sure that if we do get a run or if the joint wiggles, it doesn't pull right out, especially because the joint head on this size is significantly smaller. Some of the larger joints, when you're looking at 45mm joints, they're a little bit less of a concern. So I'm just going to continue to go through till I get to where I started and just secure that off by going through and then back through. So locks. Then I'm going to just bury this end and come out. Take my scissors and snip that off. So now I have a joint that's well secured in there. I'm going to repeat that with both my arm, with my other arm, and both my legs. And then I'm going to come back and we will explain how we attach the joint to the torso.